Princess Charlotte's nanny resigned after 10 years, leaving a heartbreaking final letter that shocked the palace. "You don't understand. She never misses tea time," whispered Francis, a senior aide, looking down the hallway anxiously. For the first time in 10 years, Theresa Turan Baralo's chair at the round table in the nursery wing of Kensington Palace was empty. Princess Charlotte, now 10, sat cross-legged in her uniform, holding her doll but not speaking. Her eyes were glued to Maria's chair. The silence was heavy. Maria wasn't just any nanny. She was the nanny, trained at Norland with a nearly legendary reputation. She had been with Charlotte since she was just 8 months old. Maria wore her crisp brown uniform with pride and never broke the rules. Not once in a decade. She never raised her voice, left her tasks unfinished, and never went on vacation without preparing a full transition binder. So when she suddenly disappeared on a Thursday morning, without saying goodbye or taking her usual morning walk with Charlotte, palace staff were shocked. The only clue to her departure was a single sealed envelope given to a guard at the north gate. It had no words, only instructions to deliver it personally to the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. Security confirmed she left alone in a black cab, wearing plain clothes and carrying a small brown suitcase along with her Norland pin. No palace driver was involved, no car from Clarence House, and no relatives contacted. Francis checked her room and found it perfectly tidy. Bed made, drawers empty, and not a scarf left behind. Charlotte's favorite bedtime book, The Secret Garden, was on her desk, bookmarked with a rose petal and tied with a lilac ribbon, Maria's trademark. She always did that when she wanted Charlotte to remember something. William was informed about the situation. He kept a calm expression, but Kate's voice trembled when she asked, "Has anyone talked to Charlotte about this?" "Not yet." The palace press team prepared a simple statement. Nanny Maria is taking a personal leave. Inside Kensington, however, everyone felt it was more serious. Something had changed, and even those close to Charlotte didn't know why Maria left. One fact was apparent. Princess Charlotte's nanny had quit after 10 years, and her last letter was still unopened. She always said, "Every child's behavior tells a story," Francis commented, noticing that Charlotte hadn't eaten her dessert. Usually, the princess would finish every bite of her pudding, especially when Maria made it. Instead, Charlotte stared at her plate and looked out the window, watching the rain. Tension filled the palace. The senior staff had worked with Maria for so long that they forgot she was technically temporary. Norland nannies usually rotate through royal families, but Maria was different. She had earned their trust. When George cried, Maria comforted him. When Charlotte was sick, Maria stayed up with her all night. During the pandemic lockdowns, Maria kept a calm routine while the world outside was chaotic. William had once called her dependable. However, something had changed recently. Francis recalled that Maria started walking alone at night, sometimes pacing in the garden long after the children were asleep. She was polite, but quieter, and seemed deeper in thought. 2 weeks earlier, a gardener noticed something odd. He saw Maria kneeling in the greenhouse, quietly crying behind some lavender. He offered help, but she politely declined, saying she needed a moment. Then she dried her face, stood up, and returned to work. When asked about her family, Maria often seemed unclear. She had no children or partner. Once, she told a staff member her parents lived in Galicia, Spain, but they hadn't spoken in years. "Old wounds," she said, "are best kept closed." Now, the palace wondered, had those wounds reopened? Meanwhile, Charlotte began showing signs of distress. She was still polite and composed, but no longer asked for Maria at bedtime. She stopped bringing books to their reading spot and walked more slowly. Even her ponytail looked different. Maria used to tie it just right. At dinner, Charlotte looked at her mother and asked, "Do nannies miss children when they go away?" Caught off guard, Kate nodded gently. "Of course they do, especially when they've loved them." The room fell silent. William privately asked the staff to search Maria's quarters again. Look for anything, notes, journals, or clues that might explain why someone so loyal would leave. Maria was known to write everything down, from feeding schedules to hair ribbon preferences. She was very organized. She kept a logbook labeled and stacked neatly in a wooden box under her desk each month, but she never wrote down the reason for her departure. When Francis and another senior aide unlocked the drawers for the second time, they did not expect to find anything new. But beneath a velvet pouch of Norland keepsakes, they found some personal notebooks bound in soft brown leather. These were not official logs, but more personal. She never shared thoughts, reflections, and observations. The first line in one of the journals read, "A nanny gives everything, but who gives back to her?" Maria kept a journal filled with memories of her time with Charlotte. She wrote about moments like Charlotte's first laugh and when she stood without help. But recently, the tone had changed. In her January entry, Maria noted, "Charlotte is growing into her person, wiser than she should be." Then in February she wrote, "I received a message from Spain today. They say she's in the hospital, heart disease, serious. I thought I had put this part of my life behind me. I don't know what to do." And in early March, "I feel like I've lived two lives. One as Maria, the nanny, the other as the girl who left Galicia behind. Maybe it's time for them to meet finally. Maybe that's the only way I'll ever feel whole." Kate read the entries by the fireplace in the drawing room. The room was silent except for the soft sound of turning pages. William stood nearby, arms folded, but he remained quiet. The entries revealed that Maria had not run away. She answered a calling that no one else understood. One question lingered. Why hadn't she told them before she left? Meanwhile, Charlotte stopped brushing her doll's hair, which spoke volumes. "She told me once that children feel things before they understand them," Kate whispered. "I think Charlotte feels this." The sealed envelope from Maria was still untouched. Opening it felt too sacred, as if it would betray Maria's trust, but things were unraveling. 3 days after Maria left, Charlotte disappeared during a morning art session. Staff noticed she wasn't in her usual chair, sparking mild panic. A quick search began, and Kate found her sitting cross-legged next to the grand Victorian dollhouse. She and Maria had spent years putting it together. Now, Charlotte was gently closing the little front door. "Were you hiding, darling?" Kate asked softly. Charlotte shook her head. "She left something for me." Kate knelt beside her, trying to see what Charlotte was watching. The dollhouse's tiny mailbox had a folded note tucked inside, sealed with a pink wax heart. Kate didn't touch it. "Do you want me to read it with you?" Charlotte shook her head again. She said, "This one's mine." Charlotte read the small letter carefully in her room, tracing each line with her finger. She didn't cry, but sat still for a long time, holding the paper close. Later that night, she gave it to Kate. The note read, "My dearest Lottie, if you are reading this, I have already left. I hope you understand this wasn't an easy decision. You did nothing wrong. You have been a joy and a credit to your family. Someone far away from my life needs me now, and I must go to her. Just as I have been there for you, I must do the same for her. You are becoming a remarkable young lady, clever, thoughtful, and strong. I will miss our time together and your great questions at tea. Please remember, I am proud of you. I always will be. With all my heart, Nanny Maria." As Kate read it, she wiped her cheek. William said after a few minutes of silence, "She didn't just raise Charlotte. She helped shape her soul." But there was still one letter that Maria had written for them. They were finally ready to open it. The envelope felt heavier than it looked. It was made of thick cream paper, folded neatly, and with gold-embossed initials, MTTB. The family had kept it untouched for days because they needed time. Now, in the quiet of the study, with Charlotte asleep and the palace lights dimmed, William and Kate opened it. The first sentence caught both women off guard. "This isn't a resignation. It is a thank you letter in disguise." Maria's handwriting was neat, but the feelings were clear. She started by sharing her gratitude for 10 years of trust and for being welcomed into a world few see. She wrote about Charlotte with a warmth that only someone who had tucked her in for over 3,000 nights could express. "She isn't just a princess. She's a child with great kindness, curiosity, and emotional depth. If I ever did anything right in my life, it was helping her understand that being royal doesn't mean being unreachable." Then came the surprising twist that left everyone at the palace speechless. Maria explained that she had reconnected with her mother in Spain a few months earlier. They had not spoken in 25 years, broken by silence, distance, and time. Maria had always kept this to herself, not telling close friends or the royal family. What changed? One evening in February, during bedtime, Charlotte had asked, "Do you have a mummy too?" Maria had smiled and replied, "Yes." But that night, she cried alone. The question made her rethink her past. She wrote, "That innocent question opened something I thought I had closed forever. I realized I have spent my life helping others feel seen while forgetting the little girl inside me. Your daughter reminded me I am still someone's little girl too, and I need closure." She explained that she planned to visit Galicia quietly, not to leave the palace, but to face her past and take back her future. Then she wrote the words that stunned everyone. "I didn't leave because I was tired. I left because I was waking up and needed to meet myself again after all these years of being Nanny Maria. Thank you for helping me find that through your daughter." At the end, one last line stood out, written in a rougher hand. "P.S. Tell Lottie, my sunflower is still dancing." The letter went into the palace archives, but its impact lasted long after it was sealed. The next morning, William and Kate shared the letter's message with Charlotte. A simple truth framed in love. Charlotte didn't ask many questions. She nodded softly and said, "I think she's happy." A few days later, a small package arrived for Charlotte. Inside was a postcard from Galicia, showing the coast and a field of sunflowers. Maria wrote in her neat print on the back, "Still dancing. You too. Okay." Charlotte kept the card in her jewelry box next to a pressed rose petal and never let anyone touch it. Weeks later, the palace hired a new nanny, Eliza Bellamy, a kind woman trained under Maria. Eliza did not try to replace Maria. Instead, she accompanied Charlotte with gentle respect and let the past be part of the present. Yet Maria's influence was everywhere, in the way Charlotte folded her napkin, in her bedtime prayers, and in how she greeted palace staff by name, just like Maria taught her. One spring afternoon, Charlotte wanted to plant a sunflower in the garden next to the bench where Maria used to read. William dug the hole. Kate watered the seeds, and Charlotte pressed them into the soil. "Do you think she'll see it?" Charlotte asked. Kate smiled. "Even if she doesn't, she'll feel it." Does working in the royal household carry more emotional pressure than most people realize? What would you say if you were in her position after 10 years of dedicated service? Thank you for watching, and join us again for more heartfelt stories that make us all reflect.